Read to me.
Hello and welcome. Christine E. Schulze here, aka the Elvish Author, and once again, my most fantabulous boyfriend, Isaac.
Hi.
And welcome back to another chapter reaction where we read chapters of books to you to help you discover something new you might want to read and to help us discover something new that we might want to read as well. And we usually react to it and give our thoughts on those first chapters and if it's something that we'd like to go on to read or not. But, of course, today, this is another special video where we are continuing to read from my Legend of Zelda fanfiction, Demon Queen. Yeah, so I just realized as I was looking and preparing for this video that we are slightly over halfway through this book already.
Oh man, there's so much that still needs to happen.
Yeah, there's still so much to come. Alright, so Isaac, can you tell our lovely readers, can you remind them what happened last time? Do you remember what happened last time?
Yes.
What happened?
Girahim found out that Sakura can read the runes.
Yes.
Which he got him super excited.
Uh-huh.
In all kinds of ways.
It's true.
They read the runes, then he took her to...
He did take her.
Yeah, that happened too. And he got in a fight with... Was the fight with him and Kitaki?
Yeah, they did have a bit of a tiff.
A little tiff, yeah. Which is a bad idea. You never want to do that. That is almost classic villain mistake.
Yeah.
You shouldn't
underestimating your opponents? I don't know if that's the right word for it, but you know. Either, but... Yeah, so you're right. So Sakura can read the runes, read the runes, figured out how to open the portal so that he could get his armies. But then one other thing that happened is that Girahim decided, well, if I open this portal and summon all these armies of the undead and whatnot, Demise is for sure going to notice because he's down there, like, watching over all that stuff. So, to be smart, before I open this portal, what I really want to do is have something to help me. And he decided that now he wants to take the Triforce. He might be reaching a little bit too big for his britches.
I think so.
You know, but also that's a classic villain mistake as well. And you're right, he did kind of tell Kitake to F off. He has Sakura now, and she can read runes, and therefore she's much more useful to him. But be that as it may, to date, Sakura has displayed no magical power, and we know Kitake as well as Komi are sorceresses, so maybe pissing them off at this stage of the game is just kind of dumb.
Why would he do that?
Yes, well,
but you know what?
He's got that arrogant streak, though. It's definitely in character for him. So we're going to jump into Chapter 8 today and see how this is all going to play out. So strap on your elf ears and get ready to listen to Chapter 8 from Demon Queen. Chapter 8. Girahim woke to realize Sakura still slept in his arms, that every sensation, every vice and virtue she had granted him last night was as real as himself. Pulling her close, he buried his face in her soft hair and the delicate curve of her neck. He had never before understood how humans could be so addicted to their simple pleasures. He had conquered plenty of women in his time, but to share his physical passion with someone who could understand the passion of his spirit as well, that had been a new experience, taking him to heights beyond what surely even the gods themselves had ever experienced. For once, being with a woman had not only satisfied his anger and frustrations, but made him hunger for more of her specifically. He no longer cared that she might cast some enchantment or poison him with some kind of love potion, nor could he care that he no longer cared. A knock on the door drew him from his thoughts. The knock quickly grew more violent. Irritated to be drawn from his dream world and back into the hellish reality of the fortress, he rose from the bed and drew on his trousers. Sakura moaned and turned over, grappling at the covers as if, in leaving the bed, he had also left her dreams as she now searched for him there, as to find him there again. He laid his cloak over her, and with a soft smile, she hugged it close and lay still once more. The knocking on the door soon morphed into a ridiculous banging. Girahim zipped over to the door and threw it open. "What is this noise at such an insulting hour of the morning?" Komi glared up at him. The flames danced, literally in her eyes. "It would not seem so early if my lord had slept through the night." "Komi? Lady Komi, this is my realm. You will address me with the proper titles of respect." Girahim wanted to throw her back into the hall and hear her skull crack on the stone. What further need had he for her, who had lied and betrayed and thought to make an utter fool out of him? And yet, a powerful servant such as her could not be made a slave if dead. Gripping the doorframe, he used every ounce of his will to restrain the power pulsing like an inevitable lightning bolt inside him. With a mockingly dramatic bow, he said, "Yes, my lady Kome, how may I serve you?" "My sister told me where you were last night, where you've been every night. We have much to talk about. Dress and come to my chambers immediately." Girahim hesitated, pushing his magic back inside him. He hadn't had a good fight since he first came here, and while being with Sakura had calmed his nerves, Kome had found a way to fan the flames anew in a single breath. The rage building inside him was not one that love would cure, but war. He gave a single nod at Kome and closed the door. His thoughts turned first to Sakura. He would have her again, but she seemed content in her sleep. She was as much a prisoner in this wretched place as he, a novelty trapped between stone walls. He had yet to puzzle out how she had not only known the runes, but how she seemed to appear out of nowhere whenever he most needed her. Whatever she was too valuable to be a servant in this place, or any place, save under his rule once he established it. For now, he would leave her to her dreams. No reason one of them couldn't get a few more hours' peace. Girahim dressed and stole quietly from the room. He entered Kome's chambers to find her waiting with arms folded, a look of mingled disgust and intrigue written clearly on her face, dancing in the flames of her eyes. "Well then, look who it is," Kome sneered. "The one I took in, allowed to live side by side with my Gerudo as our equal, without any obligation to serve. The same one who betrayed me last night. The gods only know how many nights. By not only breaking into my personal chambers, but infiltrating the sacred grounds of my people, and seeking to do, again, only the gods know what. Raising army against me? Murder me in my sleep? Who can say? This is why we Gerudo never dare to trust the treachery and false promises of men." Girahim flung a fiery dart at Kome. It expanded into a long, flaming lasso that wrapped around her and threw her back into one of the bookshelves. The bookshelf exploded. Splinters of wood and book pages rained down like snow. Kome had wriggled from her bonds a second later and whipped them around in her hand. She cast them at Girahim, but he caught them in one hand, yanked them to draw her to him, and then threw her against the wall, pinning her there. "Need I remind you that I am no man? Do not insult me again as such. How dare you, a presumptuous novice witch, insist on calling me to your chamber so that you can scold me like a mother might her son, especially after lying to me, betraying me." "Lying to you?" Kome quivered against the wall, though she continued to glare up at him with every ounce of defiance she yet possessed. "What have I lied about? I have given you perfect safety and free reign here, as promised, though you took advantage of these liberties by disobeying me." Girahim was taken aback. "You sound more and more like your sister, and still I cannot riddle if the two of you are very bold or very stupid. You lied about being able to read the runes. No, don't deny it. How else do you think I made it past your charms?" I don't know much." Kome tried to step aside, but Girahim placed an arm on either side of her, trapping her against the wall. I only know enough for my spells, and a little more. As far as the portal goes, if I had found a way to open it, I would have done so long ago myself." She wiggled to the side again, but he brought his arms in, making her cage smaller still. "How does it feel?" Girahim danced closer so that his body brushed against hers. She shivered, and for once, her desire broke through in her gaze like a ray of sun parting a dark cloud. To be trapped in this small space, in a place that is meant to be a safeguard, to have your authority and power undermined, to be watched like a child who cannot be trusted. Did you really think you could hide your knowledge from me forever? "Get away from me," Kome muttered. "You may have power as a demon, but you have no lordship here. Never forget, this is my domain." "For now." A blast of fire slammed Girahim back against the opposite bookshelf, but he quickly recovered, leaping up and pinning Kome against the wall once more, this time with his rapier to her throat. "Find your pathetic sister," he said. "What she may yet have to offer I am uncertain, but we will have a meeting to discuss our next plan of attack. Like it or not, we are moving ahead with an attack on the royal family that will serve to my benefit." "And mine?" she gasped. "My sister's?" "That would depend on my satisfaction with your cooperation." Girahim pressed the blade to her neck, just enough to create a sliver of crimson that trickled down. She did not flinch, but fear shone in her eyes. She moved her hands as if to raise another fiery attack, but he snatched them with his free hand and held them firmly. "Red becomes you," he whispered in her ear. "I could imagine you in red silks, jewels. I have always liked you better than your sister, you know. You're the cleverer between the two, the stronger. You don't throw yourself at me like others do, and what man doesn't like a challenge? I might even make you my favorite whore once I am king. I am no one's whore. I belong to no man. Demon, my lady, I am no man. Girahim pressed the blade a little deeper. The blood ran more freely, and a small whimper escaped Kome's lips. I like to consider myself a gentleman, in a certain sense of the word. I don't like it when things turn messy. It simply doesn't look nice for one of my station and title. But you do have a way of bringing my temper to boil to the surface and well beyond. Do not fool yourself into believing I am not strong enough to act upon that temper. There is the joy of a hunt and challenge, and then there is too much of a challenge. I have been very patient. My patience wanes. See that you summon your sister, and let's get things in order before it disappears altogether. Girahim released her. She fell against the wall, for a moment looking every bit as weak as Katake. The idea almost saddened him. I must get some things from my chambers, he said. I will meet you and your sister back here momentarily. Kome had already straightened, had already redrawn the cloak of coldness and composure about her shoulders. All too late. Girahim had seen. He had broken her, just enough to know he now held her under his power. He could rule Secure with love and loyalty, but if others would not love him, he would rule them with fear. He turned away and made for his chambers. As he approached, he saw that the door stood ajar. Voices from within met his ears. Why are you in here? Katake snarled. I am Lord Girahim's humble servant, Secure answered. I am always here, ready to serve his every need. His every need? A loud thump made Girahim jump up and soar down the hall. He flew into the room where Katake stood over Secure, who knelt on the ground, head bent and touching a hand to one cheek. Girahim grabbed Katake by the hair. Ignoring her cries, he dragged her into the hall and threw her to the ground. Katake screamed and looked up at him wildly. Scrambling toward him, she reached for his cloak, begging, Forgive me, my lord, but I cannot bear the idea of this common whore bewitching you. She is not the whore, Girahim thundered, nor is she the one who would seek to bewitch me and use me for her will. Believe me, my lady, it takes every ounce of my will to resist annihilating you right here and now. Truly, your insolence maddens me even more than that of your sister. Go to her now. Speak not a word of what has just passed between us. Wait for me to come. We have much to plan and discuss. Katake nodded and staggered to her feet. She trembled head to toe, all the while sending the most openly yearning glare at Girahim. Go, he said, and if you ever lay a hand against Secure again, know it will be the last time you lay a hand on anyone. Katake's gaze lingered on him a moment longer, begging and loathing him at once. Then she turned and sped down the hall. Girahim rushed to Secure's side. A cut bled just above her cheekbone. She had just finished stemming the last of the blood with a bit of cloth torn from her dress. Girahim lifted her chin and looked into her eyes. Are you all right? Did that witch strike you anywhere else? Do you any other harm? No, my lord, Secure said, and it was not such a harsh blow. I have dealt with far worse. Girahim smirked. Not a trace of tears, whereas that witch would have wept an entire ocean in exchange for a mere handful of disapproving words. Truly, you surpassed her in every way. But listen to me. He placed his hands on her shoulders. Her gaze continued to steadily meet his. I believe Katake knows about us. Unless she is fool enough to deny, she knows. At the hands of her jealousy, your safety may be placed in some jeopardy. I am going now to make plans with them. As soon as I am able, I will march on the castle. I will take you with me, and as soon as I take it, I will make you queen. You will have all manner of protections in the world, so that no man or otherworldly beings can harm you. Until then, lay low and keep your guard up. I still hold a power over her, but the moment that power should break entirely, you would no longer be safe. We would no longer be safe, you mean? Girahim studied Secure in confusion. A playful smile tugged at the corners of her lips. She took his hands from her shoulders and brought them to rest on her stomach. Impossible, Girahim said. I took you only last night. You couldn't know. I just have a feeling, Secure said, her eyes dancing. That's all. Girahim stared at her. I admit, I am incredulous. Time and again you continue to astound me. You've proven right about other things, and if you prove right about this as well, if you give me my heir. For once, words evaded him. He pulled her close and kissed her. His passion soon mounted till he had taken her once more. Then, carrying her to the bed, he laid her down, kissed her forehead, and said, Rest now, both of you. He grinned proudly. I must go deal with the fools who would claim to rule this fortress and make plans to obtain our army. Secure smiled up sleepily. The gods be with you. I will await your return and whatever news you bring. Girahim kissed her forehead again and stole from the room. He sped down the halls, fueled with new excitement. If Secure truly bore him an heir, His mind would be sealed forever. He would be untouchable by anyone. Upon entering Kome's chambers, he found the sisters standing together on the opposite side of the table. Both glared at him, one in defiance, the other in visible pain. How petty and feeble their hatred toward him burned. "I am undaunted by your anger," he said with a glance at Kome, "even less so by yours." He nodded at Kotake, who continued to pout. "We are moving forward with my plans, like it or not. Plans that you had originally promised to help set into motion." "And just how will we take the castle?" Kome said. "We have no armies yet." "I could summon them tonight," Girahim said. "If you know how. If you don't run into the same problem you did when trying to open the portal in the first place." "Oh, don't trouble over that, sister," Kotake spat. "I'm sure he could get his Hylian dog to help him." "I warned you not to insult her," Girahim said. "You warned me not to touch her again." Kome cast a curious glance at her sister, who looked on the verge of spitting venom and breaking down into tears in the same breath. "At any rate," Girahim said, "I am not quite ready to summon my army, and so that is not the tactic we would use." Kome glared at him. "Then attacking the castle tonight would be foolishness." "Why is that?" "Have you not heard the news? A princess has been born to the king and queen. All of Hyrule Town is invited to attend. The guards, the Sheikah, everyone will be at the castle, surrounding the castle, guarding the castle during the celebration. Nothing will be left to chance in regards to the princess's safety. If we already had an army, it would be perfect. We could surround and slaughter, but on our own, we will simply have to wait." "No," Girahim said, as the wheels inside his mind sped. "No, this may be a hidden blessing from the gods themselves. We have no great armies yet, but we will not infiltrate the city to take the throne. Not yet. Not this time. Instead, while everyone is distracted celebrating the princess's birth, we would use the secret passages beneath the city to steal inside the temple and obtain the 3 spiritual stones. They open their own portal to the Triforce, the power of the gods. With the Triforce in our grasp, no one can stand against us. Then we focus on building our army. But for now, we take the stones, and that's it. We retreat back to the fortress immediately afterward." A hint of greed gleamed in Kome's gaze, but she said coolly, "And what about the stones? Do not presume they will not also be under close watch." "But not as close a watch as the princess. I believe that, given the circumstances, the princess and her royal blood will be considered more vulnerable and thus in more need of protecting. Besides, no one will suspect that, after all this time, someone has discovered the runes needed for the spell that can free the stones and bestow upon them a new master. We may be beset with a few traps, a few Sheikah here and there, but nothing your best swordswomen, as well as our combined magic, can't handle." "My sister won't be going, nor will I risk the lives of my Gerudo." "I am going," Kotake said, all the while glaring at Girahim. "I am old enough to make my own choices. I will help get the stones." "A wise choice," Girahim said, "and I would counsel you to choose wisely as well, Lady Kome." He raised his hand and formed several red, purple, and orange flames that waved about on his fingertips. "For either you can lend me your Gerudo and risk their deaths, or refuse me and make certain their deaths the moment I have my army." He closed his fist, crushing the flames to mere wisps of smoke. Kome glared at Girahim. She seemed to hesitate a few moments, but finally she said, "Very well. The celebration starts in a few hours. If we are to do this thing, we had best to prepare immediately and get it over with as fast as we can." And that is the end to Chapter 8 of Demon Queen. Thoughts, comments, questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
2 things.
2 things, yes.
Why did she get her pregnant really fast?
Well, did he?
I don't know. She's very interesting.
She has intuition about things, so perhaps, yes.
Very interesting. Second of all, they called her the Hylian girl. Have they called her that before? Did I miss it?
Probably not, but we know that they've stolen a lot of people from Hyrule Town Market, so why would that be special, do you think?
I think this entire time I thought she was also a Gerudo.
Really?
Just like low-ranking Gerudo.
Okay.
With some mysteries.
Okay. No, she's definitely a Hylian.
Yeah, I missed that.
Does that have any further intrigue to you, or just like you missed it before?
No, I just missed it before.
Okay.
So I thought it was a big deal.
Yeah, well, newsflash, Sakura's a Hylian, if y'all didn't get that before. No. That's why she's such a low servant. It's because, they capture the men to have their pleasure, or I'm sure they can capture some of the women for pleasure too, to be fair. But they also capture men and women just to also be their servants, because they don't feel like being servants. Why should they? They're Gerudo thieves. If they can just steal people, to do their work for them, you know. But yeah, so let's see. So what happened also is, you know, Komei and Kataki are both pretty pissed off now. But they currently seem like they recognize that they're still under Girahim's thumb. They're under his power. He's going to make them help them collect these spiritual stones. How do you think that's going to go?
Not well.
What do you think is going to happen with that?
I don't know what's going to happen, but usually when it comes to getting the Triforce, there's a lot of issues.
Yeah, well, this isn't even the Triforce. This is like the prologue to the Triforce.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, again, Girahim might be getting too big for his britches there.
Mm-hmm.
If Sakura is pregnant, do you have any thoughts on any thoughts on that at all?
She is pregnant?
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, I'm like, maybe this is how Ganon was born.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, well, to find out what happens next, if Girahim's going to actually be able to obtain the spiritual stones and get the Triforce, I mean, technically that would mean that Ocarina never happened if that happened. However, this is a fan fiction. So maybe I'm changing the timeline, or maybe I'm not. Who freaking knows? We have to read more to find out, and to find out what happens with Sakura and all of that. You can tune in for next week's episode. He has a thought, yes.
And he did call her that she could become his queen.
Yeah.
Proving what I said earlier.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty sure Sakura is the demon queen of the title. Fair enough. But yeah, to find out more, you can tune in for next week's reading. Or if you simply can't wait, again, Demon Queen is available as a free ebook download at Barnes & Noble. Smashwords, which if you're not familiar with Smashwords, they offer books in various ebook formats. So if you have a Kindle, you can get a Mobi file. If you like PDFs, you can also get a Barnes & Noble type of file from them. I'll leave those links down below as usual in case you're like, man, I really got to find out what happens next for myself. But yeah, on that note, I think that's all we have to say about this book for now. So happy reading, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye!
Bye!